Time now at 6 p.m. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Rance Pass ISD Special Board Meeting, May 18th. I call this meeting to order. I declare we have a quorum, and Ms. Hill, can you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely.
Mr. Recker, can you lead us in the invocation, please? Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings as we come to the close of this year. As we look back, we thank you for all the things you brought us through. We thank you for giving us perseverance to see the brighter side of the rainbow. We pray for all our seniors who will be getting their diplomas in a few more days. We pray you will bless them to set their goals high and to reach those goals and become good, productive citizens of our workforce and our community. We ask these blessings in Jesus' name. For his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Ms. Hill, Mr. Rector. Next, public testimony. Nobody signed up. Next is the first reading proposed resolution submitted by TASB for TASB advocacy agenda. And again, I think, if you guys have not had time to post them up, it's up there on the, is that it up there, Blaze, on the deal?
It's in your board book now.
Okay.
Oh, it's in there now? Okay.
Yes, it's been in there. As soon as they,
Yeah. All right, mine just shows, it says it'll be added to the board book. It's not showing up yet.
no, I see it.
Oh.
Maybe you need to refresh or,
Maybe I need to refresh, you're right.
so this is basically the first reading. Mr. Mullinex and Wayne worked, and who else helped y'all? Did y'all? Basically the two of you from the safety meeting
Yeah.
came up with this resolution, and we brought it as a first reading tonight for some discussion, and then bring it back to you, the June board meeting for you to so approve if you wish, and then we still have time to submit it.
Well, like I say, and I submitted some suggestions, and Wayne added some other things to it, and so we kind of worked together. And I've looked at it after, already prior to, because we talked about it already and stuff. And it's basically, saying that there's Chapter 37, which is our guidance from the state for discipline of kids, and there's certain things they can do for DAP, ISS. Could you show Mr. Delfino's present? Welcome, sir. Mr. Flores, we're talking about the TASB resolution, and that we're just kind of entered a discussion into it, and I was just beginning to talk a little bit about it. That's where you're at. That's where we're at on the board. Okay, but again, Wayne had added some stuff as far as the Chapter 37 stuff, where they can go to DAP, ISS, or even the JJAP if it gets that bad for doing things on campus. If it's against if it's certain things in Chapter 37 that requires JJAP, that it's a mandatory placement. We have to place them there. So, but those things are just not working on the campus. Okay. Because and part of it's because the kids aren't, the kids really don't care about it, and plus there's not a lot of parent involvement because it's just the way it is, a lot of times. So and so we would like them to either give something, especially for minors at 16 years old, because they're still minors, and the parents have a responsibility as a parent to take over, some of that discipline responsibility from the school. So if we're doing something like that, we need something that our policemen can actually give them something. Hopefully they can get some type of legislation to where they give us a little bit more bite into our policy, so that we'll have the opportunity to stop that on campus. Because right now we're not the only campus; it's rampant throughout the state, and so what we're doing is not working. So, and we got measures that we're implementing, and we're doing the best we can to do that. But it's just not, especially when the same kids are doing it over and over and over. I don't know how much repeat we got into that, but there's probably a lot of repetition in the people doing the offense. So, our objective is to go to state legislators, and hopefully if TASB approves it, they'll bring it up to the legislators, and hopefully the Texas legislators in their next meeting will do something to give us a little bit more enforcement opportunity at the local level to try to remedy the problem. So that's basically, and that resolution is kind of stating that a little bit. So if you had an opportunity to look at it.
Could someone read the resolution? Because I logged back in and I'm still not seeing the,
Yeah.
I don't have
Do
it.
you want us to read it to you?
because
Or
it's not on our
email
book.
it, or- Oh, we would get it. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, let me see if I
Do you have it?
Is it lengthy?
let's see.
Did it pull up for you?
If I can see. What do you call it?
I see the submission form
Solution?
of what it needs to be in there, but I don't see the actual one for APISD.
Yeah, it's proposed resolution. I got it right here.
I just have the May 15th.
Our proposed resolution is TASB advocates for local police department or SOO to have authority to write citations for certain activities on campus, in particular vaping, tobacco, or other substances, or possession of tobacco, e-cigarettes, or any component, part, or accessory of e-cigarettes. And the reason possession of or using tobacco products or e-cigarettes, including the component, part, or accessories on e-cigarettes listed in Chapter 37 discipline chart. Discipline measures are allowed or ISS, detention, OSS, which is out of school suspension, or DAEP. These measures have done little to deter the use of vaping tobacco or THC on campus.
Okay, I think if that page that says advocacy resolution, it's down midway. I think you were probably trying to look for something that said it at the top. I just want to make sure y'all know where to find it, so you still don't have it. Okay, there's 2 tabs, so if you go back to, you'll see TASB Advocacy Agenda Resolution Memo. That's not it. You want to click on Submission Form,
Okay.
Okay.
and then go halfway down. You still don't have it?
Okay. Yes, those are the instructions, right? And so are
No,
we?
if you go down, you'll see Proposed Resolution
It's on the
halfway
very bottom.
down.
The instructions are on top. It's a form they put in, so we put it on that form.
The form, and so you have the instructions at the top, and then you scroll down, and there's the resolution. So you don't have it either?
That makes sense. Let's see that now.
Okay, so are we
Oh, I
submitting?
was
thought it was
thinking
gonna be
maybe
a
y'all just didn't
separate-
realize it was down in there.
And again, so the
Yeah.
resolution's not a big thing, because if you look at all the TASB resolutions, a lot of them are just like one sentence.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
Because they're real short, sweet, very open-ended, so there's a lot of room for, the talking about or whatever else. So that's the way, that's the way all the other TASB resolutions are. So we're gonna submit that. We gotta go before the 15th of June, to get it done. So the second reading will be our next board meeting. And then if we approve it, we'll send it to TASB. And then when we go to the deal in September, hopefully they'll add that to their, who knows what they're gonna do, but I go to the LAC in the middle of June, so I'll make sure that, I'll bring a copy of that up there, so I'll make sure that at least our voice is heard, so. And maybe, and I'm sure we're not the only campus or district in the state, because I'm sure every district is fighting the same. I know the districts down here are, just talking to local board members that their districts, they're having the same problem, so it's just something that we need to pay attention to and kind of nip in the bud now before it gets really bad. And, hopefully we can do something to kind of solve the problem and, and help our administrators out as much as we can, because, in that way they can spend a little bit more time, doing other things on the campus versus, tracking kids down for the vapor alarm going off in the bathroom. So, because when that happens, it takes probably 2 hours out of the day to do the investigation of it. So, it takes a while, because they got to figure out what kid went in the bathroom, what time they were in there, who was in there. They got to interview them. They got to check them. So it's just a lot of effort on their part in that. So it allows our administrators to spend more time doing other things and not so much doing that part. So any addition to that, Ms. Cook? Oh, you have any questions?
Yes, so the proposed resolution says TASB advocates for local police department or SRO. For our district, is it going to be our SRO or is it going to be AP Police Department?
I think they're one and
Or
the
either
same.
one?
They're kind of one and the same.
Yeah, sir, I didn't know if there was a
The
reason.
PD, the police department just they have two designated officers that are considered our SROs.
Okay,
And they're the ones that, if we have to call, those would be the two we call. But if they're not available, any police officer that came would possibly be able to write citations. They used to write citations for certain acts on campus, but some of that's been taken away from them through legislation. So this is an attempt, might not go anywhere, but at least we're trying. And we'll visit with the admin over the summer, and we'll try to come up with more ideas. We're not just going straight to this, but this is just something we want to see if it goes and gives us some help.
and do we have their support, for this resolution? Do they know we're doing this?
Chief Blanchard, I think it was at the safety meeting we
Okay.
had, and we brought it up then. His deal was, hey, anything to help us out that we can do. So, and I think maybe you've sent it to him, right, for him to look at already. Did you already do that or not?
He was looking, but he knows that they don't have, right now, they don't have any kind of authority to write those citations on campus. And again, like Mr. Munlak says, our student code of conduct already says it's prohibited to have possession of all this. That's there. We know that. And they say we can do certain things, which they're doing. And then the chapter 37 has a chart, and it says you can do these things we're doing. But it's not really slowing it down. And those guys are working hard and staying on top of it. But it's just another avenue we're pursuing to see if we can get some help.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments on that? Okay, next moving on then. Next is our action item, consider and approve tabulation selection criteria ranking based on proposed received in May the 11th, 2022. Ms. Cook, and this is tabulation selection for the renovation we're doing on Keyburger campus for office space over there. Plus the renovations are here as well, or
No.
we're not, that's not
This is
important?
for
Just
Keyburger
just the
renovations.
Keyburger only.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, question before we get into that discussion. Do we need to approve this resolution?
No, ma'am,
Going
it's
to
the
do
first reading.
First reading.
Oh,
So,
just the first
next
reading?
next time we'll.
Our June meeting will be, okay.
Yeah, we'll approve it then. And if you want something you want to add to it, you can get with Mr. Bennett there, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to add anything to it. We can send it off. We need to do it for the June 19th, though, or what?
We'll do it at our June board meeting, and then we send it out the next morning, and it makes the deadline.
Yeah, 'cause I don't forget what the deadline is, but
It's like we meet on Monday, and the deadline's
I think it's the
Wednesday.
15th. I think the 15th of June is the deadline to submit any type of thing for TASB resolutions. So, so that gives an opportunity to work it out and have, get a final copy and send it off to him for the deadline. So,
Right, but my question is, are we supposed to approve approve it at the first reading and approve it at the second reading?
No, the first reading is for you to have the opportunity to look at it, give
Okay.
input. There is no decision being made tonight. It's just you getting to have, just like when we do the policies, how you get them, and you get a whole month to read them, to ask questions, to make sure you're prepared for when you do have to approve them. So that way you're not caught off guard like tonight going, oh goodness, I have to make a decision. I haven't had time to think about this. So no, this is just a informational item.
Okay.
Okay?
and again, if we don't want the resolution, we don't have to approve
No,
it.
you can just-
Okay, we just
yeah,
don't
just
approve
don't
it.
act
So,
on it.
and we just don't put a resolution in. So we just kind of leave it the way it is. So it's a board decision whether we want to do that or not. So, anybody else got any questions? Okay, now let's move on to the consider and approve tabulation second criteria ranking based on proposals received in May 11th, 2022. Ms. Cook?
Yes, Todd is going to be joining us via Zoom or some some manner, hopefully. As you know, Todd has been basically providing his time free of charge to us to help us through this project since we have a very limited budget. And so I wanted him to be on standby to answer any questions you might have. So instead of him driving all the way over, we thought we would use our technology access and try that for this. Because we felt like I have Charlie here and Wayne, and they've been very instrumental in all of this, and so they're both here tonight, and I appreciate that. So we can, they can probably answer the questions, but we just thought we'd have backup because Todd does this a lot more than we do. So the first consideration is to look at the tabulation sheet. As you know, we went out for bids, or not bids. We went out for contractors to submit proposals for this project. And you have in your packet first the tabulation of the selection criteria. We had 2 different companies that submitted. We opened those up. We looked through all of the information. Then using the criteria that you see in the tabulation sheet, they were given points based off of monetary proposal. So you'll see 250 points for that, and whichever one has the lower amount receives that. Calendar days, which one is able to complete it in a shorter time frame. Number of years as a general contractor, they get 10 points for that. And then project, the last 3 to 5 years, they get 50 points there, and then their personnel. And so you'll see how the points fell out between the 2 companies. And then the backup information to that is you can see each of the 2 companies, and you'll find their sub list that you were able to look at, that who they would be using as subcontractors. And then you have the breakdown of the cost of based off of our plans that you'd already approved and the work that needs to be done. And this is with the addition of doing the plumbing that's right underneath the building, changing that out. This does include that. So, of course, that is why that price went up more than what we had anticipated, what we were projecting when we first started talking about this. It did elevate that to another level. So with that said, I don't know if you've had time to look through all of it. So this part is first to approve the tabulation ranking criteria. And then after you do that, then the next part would be to choose, based off of what you saw in the tabulation in our conversation, then you will choose what we're proposing is the first ranked contractor. We're proposing to you the contractor that has been ranked first, which you see is South Texas Building Partners, would be the one so that'd be a second action item. And then the third action item would be to look at the funding to pay this. This didn't actually have to be an action item, but I prefer it to be that way because we talked about a lower amount, and I wanted to be able to talk to you about what we think our plan is now for that, to handle that and see if you feel comfortable with that. So we can tell you everything at once, or we can go through each piece, however you'd like to proceed. But with this will be 3 different action items, and I think Todd is with us to answer any questions. So we'll start first with what you see or what you need to ask about these contractors.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. Just in, as you take a look at these proposals from Barcom and then South Texas Building Partners, it looks like it's about $44,000 difference. Could you tell us in what area the cost difference is between the 2 proposals? Because plumbing was rather close.
Yes,
the allowances,
I had that, but I did not
painting,
bring it in here. I'd have to go.
I mean, bonds and insurance are pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Todd, do you remember? Todd, are you there? He's talking, but we can't hear him.
He's on mute, probably.
I don't know if you can hear
Oh,
me.
there we go.
Now we can.
Do you remember the differences? I had that in my notes. I can go get.
Yes, I believe they had I think it was $74,000 in general conditions and the supervision of the work. And South Texas Building Partners had like 51,000. So some of that's overhead and the actual workers that are doing the project. So some of it's in that fee, and the other is in the plumbing portion. That's primarily it.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you can see us, Todd, but she stepped away for a minute, so.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Todd on that? I mean, we're not able to see you, but we can hear you fine.
The 10% added to the South Texas Builders proposal, is that a contingency at the bottom? The 10% at the very bottom of their proposal, is that for contingencies?
That's their profit.
That's how much money they're gonna make out of the project.
Okay, let me go back to the allowances for contingencies, because once they start the work, if there's something additional, let me ask you, did they build in any amount for contingencies?
We have
10,000.
10,000 in contingency,
Yes.
and then I think it was 70 or 63,000 in allowances.
Yeah, there's 10,000 in contingency. You see that under owner allowances on South Building. I don't know which one you're looking at. And let's see. And then we have $73,000 in allowances. And the allowances included, let me get all that.
You want me to go through those?
Yes, tell them the allowances. I don't have that paper in this
Okay,
folder.
we had 2,000 for signage, 8,500 for security film. We had 45,000 for network camera system, and we had 7,500 for miscellaneous plumbing item.
And back to your question on the differences, the main difference between the prices were doors, frames, and hardware. Barcom was, 6,000 higher there. I'm trying to find like the big one. Let's see. For floor and wall tile, Barcom was at 20,000. South Texas was at 12,000. And sometimes it was hard to compare the apples to apples because they named it a little different. The big difference was plumbing. For plumbing, Barcom had it 89,000. South Texas had it at 110,000. So there was, what we did like is that on the plumbing side, Larson, right? Larson is the company that we've been using and have a good rapport with. That is their subcontractor for this job. They actually have already been out and crawled under and looked, and they're the ones that actually, remember when we did the plumbing report, they're the ones that did the plumbing report. So they've actually seen it and have an idea of what they're dealing with.
And they're subcontracted out by South Texas or
Yes.
Barcom?
South Texas.
Did Barcom provide detail of their allowances, that's 73,000, and the general conditions, the 54,000?
Well, the 73,000 allowances is the same. That's part of the, already in the drawings and the specs. So that's the same for both companies.
Because South Texas, they broke it down for us under allowances. So I was just wondering,
Yes, but they're in the specs. They just didn't break it down, but it's the same allowances that Todd wrote into our specs. Because it's part, when you, it's just part of it. It's not, they don't make up the allowances.
Did we set, or you set the contingency amount? Are you comfortable with that? It's a 2%.
You asking me a question?
Yeah, I think, Todd, and she wants to know if the 2% contingency allowance is that sufficient?
It's kind of low, kind of low. But I didn't want to put a lot in there just because of the limited funds,
Because with only a 2% contingency, once they start doing work and they get in there, that just means then they would have to come back to us to ask for additional funds.
No, that's not our plan at all. No, our plan is to make this happen unless there's some catastrophic something that we dig into. But the plan was never to we will do without something else. So, for example, the main thing that has to happen is HVAC, the electrical, those things, and the plumbing. We have to start there. And so whatever's left after that, then that will determine the size of the studs on the wall. We've talked about how we can use different studs that are less expensive, and we're planning on doing that anyway. There's a lot of cost cutting we can do, and so we will start cutting. If we can't afford and this is unfortunate, but this is where we are. We only have a limited amount of money. We are very aware of that as a team, and we are willing to put ourselves out here to say we will take up the slack. If it means we pick up paintbrushes and we paint our own walls in our offices, that's what we will do. Because we know that and this makes me nervous. I don't like stepping out doing projects like this, but this is the only choice we have. To make something like this happen. So we will start with the things that are out that we know we can't do, but even like the security camera system and all of that, that is definitely necessary, but if we have to, we'll start looking like our safety funding. We can try to find another way to come back and make that happen. I don't want to have to piecemeal this together, but if we have to, we'll do what we have to get us in there because it's not hurting students. We would never want to do this for students. But since it's the adults, the admin office, it's something that we could, if we had to, we can say, okay, this is as far as we can go because we hit this big dilemma. We're going to make this happen. But the hard part about a remodel, you just don't ever know what you're going to hit. And this is just, we're taking a big step of faith, or we don't have to. If y'all don't feel comfortable with this, that's why I've tried to give y'all this all along the way, because we're taking a big chance here. We get in here and there's something we didn't think of. The good thing we've done is that we have already done 2 rooms, and we were able to make that happen, and we made that happen in-house. So our guys did put up the studs and the wall and the sheetrock, and Miss Johnson and her staff did some of the painting, and then our guys did some of the painting. So they've painted the hallways. So we're all in. So we are willing to do what we need to do. This is not one of your normal ways to come at a project by any means. This is definitely a step of faith with as much knowledge, thought, preparation as we can possibly give it.
And just ensure that we're doing an apples to apples comparison on the Barcom proposal. Was their contingency also at 2%?
Yes.
Okay.
I do agree with you. We like how South Texas Building did put everything out line by line by line. It really made it very clear, whereas Barcom did more of lumping it together. But when I went back and we even talked about it and we tried to look and see where it was, we found that they each had in it what was necessary. But in the end, you can see that South Texas was the one that rose up from our look. I will also say this too, that Wayne and Charlie both walked with both companies in the building, had the conversations, kind of did an informal interview, you might say, to kind of get a feel of the companies. Can we work with them, and so forth. And if you'd like to ask them any questions, I think they both felt very comfortable with both companies were very good, but feel comfortable with recommending South Texas.
Well, and like I say, my take is both of them doing the same job, and there's like a $44,000 difference between the costs.
Yes.
And so again, you know, you're looking at the end product, that both of them bid on the same project, both one of them come, and since we're limited in funds, then when we come to the voting part, I'm gonna kinda lean towards the lowest bid. Because again, they're on the same criteria and they were judged the same way. So again, and we don't have the luxury of, spending $44,000 extra because we just don't have it.
Right.
So so we're living on our tight budget, so we're trying to make it happen
Right.
the cheapest way we can get it done.
And the other consideration is on the plumbing. I'll go ahead and say this here because it kind of fits here and then down later with the amount. With the plumbing, you, and Todd, you can correct me if I'm wrong here on this, but we are looking at, this does include the work underneath the building that we talked about, because at first we were just looking at changing out the fixtures and so forth in the bathrooms and upgrading them to be adult size. But then the great question was asked, what about the plumbing underneath? We had that checked out. We were told it was in fair condition, could last for years to come, but, kind of made us a little nervous, especially when we looked at the pictures. But we were assured by the plumbing company that it was in fair condition. But we wanted to err on the side of caution, so we went ahead and had Todd put it in as a scope of work to go ahead and have that changed out. So that did increase the amount of this also. And I think, Todd, we don't have the actual breakdown of that from the company. They don't usually give you that until they get the bid. But I think you said that you thought $50,000 of that was probably, or what was the amount you had said is potential if we did not do the under building work for plumbing?
Yeah, about half.
So that could be
$50,000.
$40,000 to $50,000 savings if
Yes, ma'am.
we wanted to say, let's hold off on that and deal with it when it happens, and hope we have the money. I mean, that's kind of the thing there. So there could be a savings there. We're looking at other ways we can also save. I think they had put in the bid, I think both of them put granite in the bathrooms, didn't they? And we were like, well, that's a little overkill. We don't need granite. So we'll look at a cheaper type of countertop. Thank you. I think Todd had mentioned the wall stud sizes, that those were a little overkill, and that we could do a different size that would give us a savings. So roughly, when we were doing that, I came up with about $68,000. If you didn't do the under plumbing, the wall stud gauge was changed. And and then it was if we didn't have to use the $10,000 contingency. If we're very careful and we, remember we're tight. You could looking at anywhere from $58,000 to $68,000. It could be that we could save there.
Yeah, but we also got to look at the fact, we know the plumbing is not great.
Right.
So therefore, and so if we put that off and we wait 6 months down the road, you think about how much things have rose in the last 6 months.
Yes.
Okay, and we had to come back and get it fixed 6 months from now. That cost is going to be a lot higher than what it is now.
It's going
It's
up
just like
weekly
anything.
now.
In the same way with any type of construction work that we're doing, that because a year ago, it came, we were looking at $400,000, and now we're looking at over $500,000 for the same exact thing in the scope of work. So that's just how much, the prices of everything has raised up in the last 6 or 8 months. My deal is we need to jump on this now and get it locked in and get it doing, because, it's something we need to do. And if we don't do it now, we're going to be doing it in the future. We're going to pay more money overall anyhow. So, so.
I think that's a important note, especially on the plumbing piece. In here, I see where they had the concrete, saw cutting, drilling, and patchback for $9,000. So if we go back in the future, you're going to be looking at cutting that concrete. And am I wrong? We would be looking at cutting that concrete back, patching that back. The contractor's trying to preserve the floor tiles that we just placed in, so
Yeah. Yeah.
they're gonna charge you for being more careful than them going in and tearing this thing up right now. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, in the
That's just not
restrooms,
ideal.
yes, yes.
And same
So
with
that,
any
for
type
sure.
of fixtures you got
Yeah,
for the toilets and the sinks and things that, you
Well,
know,
and our
that-
fear was you pull up, you start pulling stuff up, and then that pipe might have looked good, and as soon as we try to disconnect it to put the new one in, it could
Yeah.
crumble.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's an example of my questioning, my concern about such a low contingency, because this is an older building, and we're going to be uncovering areas that haven't been touched in quite some time. So
Well, but not necessarily, because we're going up in this, we're going through the ceiling, the lower ceiling, so they'll go through the ceiling to move the ductwork in, just like we did. So we're trying not to cut in or disturb much at all. So they'll take and I may be speaking way out of my league here, but I think I got this. But they'll, just like we did for those 2 rooms, they'll just use the ductwork and they'll bring it in through the ceiling tiles. So we'll replace some tiles, but they're not cutting into walls. When we do the electrical, it will be just like the conduit that's up around our walls here. We're not going into wall unless it's a new wall being built. Then they would be, like if they're going to build a sheetrock wall against a brick wall, then they might be able to do the wiring behind that. Otherwise, it will be run through conduit. We're not going to try to cut into walls. The only cutting that happens is one doorway. That leads into one of the offices because we're trying to maximize this space. And so we're using a classroom with one doorway, but we're trying to put several offices in there. So we were cutting a doorway in, and I think that's it. Is that the only cutting?
Existing wall cut that's
Yeah.
gonna be made
Is one. And then, like so the electrical I talked about, and then all the hardware, or what am I trying to say, for the security system and all that wiring, a lot of that wiring's already in. It's older wiring. They're just going to run new wiring. Once again, it'll be up through the ceilings and it'll drop down in. So yes, normally, if you start knocking down walls or doing some of that, I mean, the only place, and then even in the bathrooms, they're just going to replace. They're going to pull up some things and replace. The piping is probably our biggest concern when that starts happening. In the bathrooms is where we could have some issues. But we're limiting that, we're replacing in the same spot. We're not like redoing and drilling a new hole for a new, something. So, I don't know if that helps you feel any better about it, but just so you kind of understand, we're trying to, because every time, if we did more of that, then it gets very costly on the front side, and then you definitely are opening yourselves up for whatever. I mean, I can remember remodeling a house and thinking, don't take down another wall, because every time we took down a wall, there was something horrible behind it. So.
Well, and like I say, we've already done 2 offices in-house that we've
Yes.
kind of done ourselves in that. So, and the other offices are going to be very similar to that. So it's the same type of structure, same type of building. So it's just, we're contracting it out because our people don't have the time or effort in that with materials and stuff to do it otherwise. So, so again, we've already done, 2 of them ourselves. So we kind of know any problems that might be hidden behind doing it. So, I don't, hopefully don't, you never know, but you don't foresee any type of potential problem since you've already, done it yourself and couldn't, didn't find anything that prevented you from doing what you need to do. Like if you remodel a room in your house and then, and you get it done, well, then it's more than likely that if every other room is the same, then it's not going to, it's not going to cause you any more problems because you've already done it once and you know what you're looking for and what any problems arose up. So, I mean,
Okay.
to me, that just makes sense to me sometimes, just thinking outside the box,
So just so that we're clear, the plumbing is where I was really focusing, because those are older pipes. So we're going to tap the existing, wherever the lavatories, the sinks, we're going to remove, let's say, kid-size
Yes,
commode and put in an adult-size commode.
yes.
Okay, so we're gonna use, because when we say remodel, we're not changing the design necessarily so much of restrooms, making it bigger or anything. We're going
No.
to tap the same lines, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're
I was
just-
thinking we're doing new lines, we're
No.
pulling up
Oh,
old
no, no, no.
piping,
and-
putting in
and
new
they're-
pipe.
Oh, no, we
Okay.
can't afford
And they're
that.
replacing some of the pipes underneath it, in the foundation that they're gonna replace out so that it prevents anything from coming up in the future. And they've already checked the outside lines outside the building and they're in good shape. So the only problem we might encounter, that we could look ahead, it would be just stuff in the foundation. And so they're gonna replace that, so that's part of the bid.
There's no
So,
more
so that should be taken care of. So there shouldn't be any other big problems that they should get when they do the work, other than, you never know when they get into that plumbing,
Right.
what's gonna happen. But still, though, they've come up with a cost, and the guy, like I said, it depends which bid we take, but one of the contractors is one that has a plumbing company that actually did it, so they know what they're looking for scope of work, so.
Was that Larson?
Yes,
Did Smart Plumbing go in and take a look as well? Because on the plumbing, there's a $30,000 difference between these two companies.
They did, they had a representative there as well.
Smart did also? Okay.
They didn't do the actual inspection as Larson did, but of course Larson did the original inspection for us. They did a real detailed inspection of it. Larson, Smart came in and just took a quick look and, did their thing.
Okay.
they didn't actually, because it didn't Larson, they crawled underneath the
They
building.
got-
They're the one that went under the building, took the pictures, and they're the ones that did that report that you have.
They got across the-
Barcom plumber,
Did get in there,
he got in there, our guy Johnny took him around, showed him everything.
and I'm gonna get up.
Okay.
Yes, no,
Okay.
please.
When these, just to, I know you're concerned. The plumbing issue, that is a concern. However, the access to the plumbing is very easy as well, because there's a crawl space.
Okay.
It's gonna be very easy to replace all that stuff, really. But there's a lot of it, and they're gonna have to do some things reroute, because they're gonna have to accommodate, the water supply to these new fixtures, the adult size, and also the sewer lines. So I really don't anticipate it going over what they're bidding, because it's accessible, That's when you get into issues, when they have to, like you said, they have to start tearing things apart, And it's not gonna be that bad of a demolition, okay, for the plumbing, okay? Now, I'm gonna back up a little bit. The two contractors, I've had experience with both of them before my life in education. I was in the construction business. I was a salesman. I sold paint. And I dealt with both of these companies. And a lot of their subs I've dealt with too in the past. And all of them are very reputable. They've been along well, I did that 25 years ago, so they're still around. So that's gotta tell you something, okay? Both South Texas and Barcom, okay? A lot of them on there, they've been around, and I know a lot of the people, and so, I think, South Texas is a good choice. I think Todd will agree to that. They got lots of reputable, subcontractors, that are gonna, do us right, and do what we need them to do, okay?
Also with the water usage, Todd may correct me on that, is the current ones are the older, and I thought one of the plumbers said takes like 4 gallons to flush. And the newer ones, that'll cut that in at least half or something. I don't know, Todd can
Yeah,
probably tell you
everything's-
more. So
yeah,
that,
everything's more
Efficient.
efficient now.
More water,
efficient,
okay.
Yeah. So I understand your concerns, and it's legitimate concerns. It's just, we're stewards of the taxpayers' money, but that's just my opinion on everything, okay? I'm just letting you know. All right?
Thank you, I appreciate
You're welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
that background.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the tabulation section criteria ranked based on the proposals received for APISD on May 11th?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Diaz, seconded by Ms. Hill. All in favor, say aye. Next is consider and approve entering into a contract with the first-ranked contractor for Keyburger remodeling project. And then do I hear a motion to move entering into a APSID contract with South Texas Building Partners?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Ms. Diaz, second by Ms. Hill. All in favor say aye. And next is consider and approve the maximum amount of ESSER funds used for kindergarten remodel project not to exceed the amount listed by the contractor.
So you'll see that on South Texas, it was, I won't get the exact amount.
I got South Texas $501,731.
Yes.
And
And,
Barcom $545,000.
So South Texas is the one you've approved, so the amount would be $501,730. And so going back, of course, we're using ESSER funds to do this. And so that was more than what we had originally talked about. So like I mentioned earlier, we can opt to, like I said, not do some plumbing, leave some of those on the table. That is not our recommendation. We've thought hard about this because, you know, we try to spend this money so carefully because we're trying to stretch ESSER funding to do as much as possible. But I went back and we did some, this is the time of year where we evaluate our budgets from this past year, looking forward to next year. So when we received this ESSER funding, you know, such a blessing, and we were trying to, you know, immediately had to plan out for 3 years. And so we brought to you all those categories, those areas we were going to address, and then we put amounts in. And when we did that, we were having to do some estimations because we've never had that kind of money to say, okay, we're going to do tutoring all year and it's going to cost X number of dollars. So some of our estimations came in high because we either didn't get it lifted off the ground as quickly because we ended up having a little more COVID activity that hindered some of our opportunities like field trips. We didn't get to go on field trips like we had wanted to go on. We didn't get to send teachers to conferences or to other districts to go and grow. And then the tutoring side, we did because we had kids in and out, and how we ended up doing our principals did such a great job with their scheduling. They did a lot of the tutoring in-house during the school day. So we ended up not doing a lot of the extra tutoring outside afterwards and so forth for multiple reasons. With that said, when we went through and we looked at each of our areas, what we had budgeted for this year, I wanted to see where we had underspent to see what we had. I had told you that we had already in indirect costs I said it was about $300,000. It's actually $388,963. That is what we had put in indirect cost when we built this budget at the beginning of the year. That was money basically saying we've allotted for all the areas we know. We don't, you know, as we're planning out, we don't know what's next or what else we need, so we're going to put that there until we find the right way to spend it. And then, so we have that. That's why we were hoping it was going to be around $300,000. We knew we had that. Then the difference, or the actual amount we have underspent from where we budgeted, because we threw a lot at this first year because we were coming out of the gate hard and heavy saying we're going to just do all these great things. And we did do a lot of great things, just not to, the biggest one was a $186,000 underspending in the tutoring side, which when we added everything up, we underspent $328,740. So with the indirect cost of $388 and the underspent of $328, we have, you know, right at $700,000 that is available for us to rethink how we want to spend it. That is saying that, because my big concern, our concern as a team, is making sure that we don't take anything away from our plans, our strategies, and everything we're trying to do for our staff and our students in this community. So this money does not take anything away from year 2 and year 3. So everything that we'd planned, everything we said we were going to do is still in place. We've still budgeted it. So my proposal is to take the to recommend to you to approve $501,731. Put my glasses on. To out of ESSER funding, and we use this funding to take care of this project. And that will still leave us about $200,000, a little over $200,000. It's still in it that we can still use to supplant some other things. You may remember too, we also got after we got this grant, then we got the T-class grant, and that's where we're gonna take all tutoring out of for the next 2 years. So it doesn't even have to come out of this anymore. So, and we keep looking for grants. We sat here today and we were getting ready to write 2 more grants. So, we're not stopping. We're gonna keep doing that so we can keep doing bigger and better things. So I bring this to you. Like I said, I'm very frugal. I want to make sure that we do things right. Things like this make me nervous. I wish I had crystal ball sometime to really look and see is this the right thing or not. But I know we need the space because I'm just believing growth is just going to come quickly for us. We don't want to be behind the 8 ball on that. We need to vacate this building, and we need to, so that we can do all these great things with our students. We have the money here to be able to do that. It will. People say it doesn't directly affect students, but it does, because when we get out of here, then we have more space for these children to have tutoring rooms, STEAM labs, all these different things that we want to do, that we want to add. They will have access, smaller class sizes, so that it will directly affect them by us being able to do this. So that makes me feel confident in what we're doing, and that these ESSER funds, what they were meant to do. I have submitted the application to TEA already with the amount. I spoke to them on the phone. They said, I did that a week ago, or I did it the day after we approved, you approved at the last board meeting. And I spoke to the representative there. They're saying it's taking anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to get an answer back. So I feel like by the end of this month, we'll have our answer. I went over it with her, and I said, based off of what you've seen come through, what do you think? She said, I don't see there being a problem at all. This fits right in line with what this funding can be used for.
And that was with the 501 proposal or the 388 proposal?
I put in $500,000. Mm-hmm. Yes, because at that time, I waited till after we opened the bids. That's because I had to have the amount, and so I went ahead and put in the $500,000. Yes. So with that said, if you have any questions, but that is our recommendation, and I just wanted to do it formally with you approving it as a board, even though it wasn't really necessary. We could have just talked about it, but I feel that this is big when you're spending $500,000, even if it is grant money, and that we need to all be in agreement that you believe this is the best thing to do.
Well, and like I say, I think, my belief is overall it's going to benefit the students when we open up those classrooms, because again, anybody in education knows smaller classrooms are better for kids and better for education. So us opening up those classrooms will allow us to even find teachers to fill them.
Well, if we can find them.
That's the problem.
We'll have the
a problem in the
space.
future. But again, it allows opportunity for the school to, at least Charlie Marshall, to be able to expand out a little bit further and open up more classrooms and get smaller sized kids and stuff. Especially, in Keyburger is our Falk right now is sitting pretty good, because we got that campus just opened up. So, the student population and class sizes is not great, but it's adequate. Okay. It may be something we need to address in the future, but again, right now it's something we can live with. But, Charlie Marshall, since we took over a lot of their space when we moved out of here, and he moved to 6th grade over to the junior high, it opened up space, but they've grown over the last, since that happened 10 years ago, that, now their classrooms are getting full, so it gives them the opportunity to expand out and make smaller classrooms, and not even, classroom as much as other activities they might be doing. It gives them the opportunity for better planning, because again, they may have art projects or something inside of a classroom, and they can do that, and that. So our choir and things like that, they could always open up one of those rooms and do that in there. So it gives them an opportunity to expand in other ways to give a better education to our kids.
Yes.
So, anybody have any comments on so again, I think the motion would be to.
Excuse me, I do.
Oh, go ahead.
So just that we're clear, the $717,000, that is all ESSER fund. The indirect costs that we originally talked about, plus the additional $328,000, that's all ESSER from year one that's available?
ESSER, it's all ESSER monies. It's over a 3-year period. It's not like a year, you don't get it like year 1, year 2. You get one big lump sum, and we had to budget out. We just budget out what we're gonna spend for year 1, year 2, year 3. So the underspent, yes, was for year 1.
Yes, was for year
Yes,
one,
I'm
because you
sorry,
said
yes.
we're not touching,
What we've already
the plan
budgeted for
year
2
two
and
or year
3.
three. Okay.
As, if anything, we've increased, we've looked at increasing some of it. Some of it we did a little less, like, tutoring, we took it completely out as a line item for 2 and 3 because we moved it to T class.
To which one?
T class, another grant.
Okay.
Which is for tutoring.
Okay. And on the year one initiatives that we didn't do, you gave us some examples, like, you know, the principals did a great job of incorporating that additional tutoring, that additional support during the day, so they didn't have the extended tutoring hours. So
Well, they still did. We as through 4/29, we spent $105,000 paying tutors to come in on our campuses. So they
Okay.
still did. We had allotted $291,000. We were thinking real big. That was a lot of money. So, but we just didn't have any idea because we'd never done that before. So we definitely were thinking pie in the sky.
okay, okay. And so I just want to make sure, were there any initiatives in the plan that you and the admin team had for year one that we didn't get to do, but that we're going to move over or defer to year 2 or 3?
Oh, yes.
So, so some of the remaining $215,000 balance, will that be reprogrammed in our internal
Well,
plan
it's
for year
already
2 and 3?
there. We already planned
Okay.
out year 2 and 3.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That had been done year 1. We showed y'all year 1, year 2, year 3. When you got that spreadsheet, that you probably don't remember it, it had
Yes, I do.
all the programs. It had year 1, year 2, year 3. We had already allotted the money across the board. So all of those places already had the funding allotted. So we didn't change that unless we are going to tweak it and increase an amount, or like take the tutoring away and put it somewhere else, things like that. But all of that had already been planned. So that's what I was saying. We're not, this decision tonight does not change any of that. It does not take that away or hinder us from still doing those initiatives.
Right, that
Yes.
I understand that for year 2 and 3, but what I'm saying is the things that did not happen in year 1 besides the tutoring, are we still gonna do those? And if so, do we need to make sure we carry over in that ESSER budget that we did for our district? Do we need to, I guess, revise or update
Well,
that plan?
Maybe I didn't explain it well enough. So like, we over budgeted, let me put it that way. We over budgeted. The only things we didn't do were like, we didn't go on as many field trips as we hoped, so we underspent. So it wasn't like we didn't do them, we just didn't do it to the level. We didn't get to send teachers to conferences or other campuses, so we had budgeted an amount of money, but we didn't get to do all that. But that same amount's budgeted the next year.
Okay,
It had already been. The character curriculum was never, they never landed on a specific one. We're going to do that and get it
Okay.
ordered this year for next year. Family engagement support, we ended up, we had put $10,000 there, but in our title money, we never spend that. So we decided to start using title money because you lose that. So that's not going to move over anymore. We took that away. So it's readjusting everything. So, as far as, there wasn't anything, I'm trying to think of, there's really nothing we didn't do. A character curriculum was probably the only thing that was budgeted that wasn't touched. We didn't purchase a character curriculum. That money has already been moved over to year 2. Well, actually, it's still in year 1 because we're going to purchase it before this budget's out. We will begin using it in year 2.
okay.
Yes.
Because that plan, I mean, you and the team did so much work
Yes.
on that plan and had so many wonderful ideas and initiatives for the betterment of our students,
Yes.
not only to recover out of COVID, but to help them be successful, and some new programs to energize this district, to raise the level and competencies in this district. And so I just don't want us to miss any of
Oh,
that.
no.
Or,
No.
and it's okay if we need to defer or adjust or
Right.
modify the budget. I just want to make sure. So, thank you for explaining that to me.
Yes,
'cause I
no,
wanna make sure
and that is
we're
exactly.
still moving forward with
No,
those initiatives.
that is exactly what I was and I guess I haven't conveyed it very good, is that we did not want to touch any of our plan.
Okay.
Because we believe in this plan, and we're already seeing and reaping benefits of it. By some of the scores that are coming in that I'll tell y'all in June, or I'll send it to you in an email. So, I mean, we're seeing good things. So no, we're not touching that. If anything, we're enhancing it more, like the money that, some of the indirect cost that will be left, we'll probably use some of that to look at some other things we're adding to this as we've grown out of year one. So if
Okay.
anything, it's going to be more, and if we can't find the money here, that's where we're writing grants.
And I think it's real important that we have that understanding.
Yes.
Because, we had some community involvement with that. And so I don't want people to get the impression that we're sacrificing those
No.
ESSER initiatives or slowing that down in any
No.
ways or scaling back
No, ma'am.
for this much needed project to expand the classroom and labs for our students.
No, ma'am. We are not doing that.
Okay.
I guarantee you. Probably my team wishes we would stop for a minute, but no, we're not. We're on full steam ahead.
Well, because when you say you have this much money left over out of year one,
Yeah.
we just need to be able to have an understanding of
Yeah.
how that
Well, it
happened.
was
Yeah.
just on our part, I think in a nutshell, poor understanding of, we've never had an opportunity to budget for all those different things. And since we've never had a year where we could just pay tutors, we didn't know what that would cost us. We didn't know what that would look like. So it was just a learning year for us. It was a great, beautiful way to learn, to have money, and just like to give our teachers those incentive stipends. I've told y'all before, I felt like Oprah. You get 1,000, you get 1,000. I mean, that was wonderful to be able to have the funds to do things that we've never been able to do that should be done every day in education. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. So, but maybe that helps us appreciate it more.
Well, I think the things that are the initiatives that we're launching and things that we're doing is turning the tide.
It is.
And so I hear a sense of commitment, and so I just want us to be able to continue that.
We
and
will.
to
Yes,
see
ma'am.
it through
Yes,
for our
ma'am.
students and teachers.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else got any questions?
Oh, Todd.
Oh, I'm sorry, Todd.
Todd's just
Yeah,
hanging
thanks a lot, Todd. Well, I think, unless anybody has any more questions for Todd, thanks a lot for showing up. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate you for doing this for us. We really do. We just want to
Hang
pass
out with us
our
if you wanted.
appreciation. But thank you.
No problem.
Thank
You
you,
have
sir.
any questions for us or comments before you go?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah, bless his heart. We
We're gonna
kind of
put him
forgot
on
he
the
was up
put
there.
his name on the sign-in sheet.
Well, yeah, well, you may have a question you could answer too.
I don't think he was,
Okay, so based on the proposal for the first-rate contractor approved in the previous item, consider and approve maximum of ESSER funds to be used on a project not to exceed the amount listed by the contractor.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Diostas, second by Mrs. Hill. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, next convene in executive session as authorized by Texas Open Meeting Act, Government Code 551.001, concerning any and all purposes permitted by the Act, Section 551.074, discussion of personnel, new hires, and Falk Elementary School principal, and new hire DOI local certification. And I have time it now at 7:05. We're going to close the open session, convene an executive session. Thank you. Okay, got it on. The time is now 8 p.m. We reconvene an open session and act on any items required for action during closed session. Do I hear a motion to approve the new hires for Falk Elementary School principal position as presented by administration?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Butler.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rector. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Welcome.
Congratulations.
Glad you have it. We appreciate it.
Great
Yeah,
continuity.
yeah.
And it's Jody Algosova, for those of you watching, since we didn't say her name.
it's not on my script, so.
I know, but I thought that we want them to know who it is.
Can't ad lib.
And next is consider to approve local teaching certificate utilizing District of Innovation option for Daniel DuBose in technology applications at AC Blunt Middle School. Do I hear approve the local teaching certificate for Daniel DuBose in technology at AC Blunt?
So move.
Motion made by Ms. Hill. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Flores. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Ayes got it. And the time is now 8:01 with no other business for the board. I adjourn this meeting.